the problems that most people see with the healthcare industry, they're because of government involvement. Your healthcare, your health insurance, or your healthcare should not be tied to you having a job. You shouldn't have.
That is weird.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to have a job to be able to pay to go to a doctor. Like, the costs of everything wouldn't be so high if it wasn't for the fact that you're not allowed to know what the cost is. You're not allowed to go and put it on a market. You look at any kind of.
We got to clarify that. You should have to have a job.
Well, fair enough. Fine.
You need to be able to pay for yourself and your healthcare and buy that service.
My point being that it shouldn't be tied to employment. If you look at LASIK, if you look at any kind of elective surgeries, the price goes down over time because there's competition. When you take healthcare out of the market context and make it something that someone else pays for, and the people that are actually getting the care or giving the care don't actually talk about the price or discuss the price at all, then you're going to see prices skyrocket.
You need competition.
The government should not be involved at all.
In doctorship too. Like, it takes 12 years for someone to become a doctor and cost them $600,000. It's absolutely insane the amount of help that people could be giving each other in this world if we didn't have government regulations of doctorship. It's a little bit of a hot take. A lot of people, you don't want your doctor to be an idiot. It's one of the most important jobs on earth, so they better know what they're doing. But it doesn't take 12 years to figure it out.
Even with all of the regulations surrounding being a doctor, it's still like the third most common cause of death is medical malpractice.
Let me just pull this back in. You know what? I don't know. I don't care. Like, the healthcare system is bad for a lot of reasons, but it is not the fault of a doctor or an insurance company who doesn't provide for you that an illness took your life. Okay? So when Taylor Lorenz says they're murdering people, I'm like, now hold on there a minute. If I pay for a service and do not get it, we got ourselves there a problem, a contractual problem. And if it's tied to my life, we got a big problem. And that's a civil issue, and it's nasty and it's evil, but it's not murder. Okay? If a human being, I don't know, contracts some kind of disease, and they are dying. This is the worldview of these leftists. If I go down to, Bogota or go somewhere, and then I get some weird bug lands on me and it bites me, and then I get a disease. When I get sick and then go to the hospital and die, no one murdered me. I died from an illness. Humans die. These things happen. If a dude is working in his backyard, or how about this? If a guy is working on, say, like an oil, they're building an oil well, and then in the process, a bunch of pipes fall on him and crush him. If they bring him to the hospital and they can't save his life because of some paperwork, they didn't murder him, right? Now, don't get me wrong. Emergency rooms are obligated by law to treat people. So you're not getting denied life-saving coverage. They're not paying your bills. In many circumstances, there are people who might have like a cancer or treatment. And this is more rare, but it happens where they say, we're not going to pay for this treatment because you're not covered or we're disqualifying you. But it is not as common as these people are claiming it out to be. Overwhelmingly, people get their insurance paid, and we generally don't like these companies because they're kind of dicks about it. And they make a lot of money off of denying claims. Fact, they'll try to avoid paying your claims. But I reject the idea that a CEO personally murdered millions of people because humans suffer detriments to their health every day.
She backtracked on that term murder. She stopped calling it murder right after she did, just like she stopped saying she had joy right after she said she did.
You know she does.
Girl doesn't have very high intelligence.
Why does she use the term murder? Because then what's the implication if someone is murdering like thousands of people a year, then what does that justify against them? Maybe that's what it's about.
Self-defense.
Right? Yeah.
And that's what the left says on everything. When they go out and they burn buildings down, they call it self-defense.
Exactly.
And they're like, no, it isn't.
Right.
They're insane. You know what the thing is? I think the real challenge is if Taylor, I would love to pay an all-expense paid trip for you, Taylor Lorenz, to insert any third world country. I think we'd want to do a tour of like 3 different locations in different regions where you would then live for 1 week in these places, come back to the United States. She'd look around and say, this is the greatest country that ever has been. Yeah. I love everything about it. Our healthcare industry is the best. I love how they're talking about Canada's got free healthcare. Why can't we have it? And then you take a look at Canada and it's like man denied basic health treatment, because the government's refusing to pay for it. So they get private healthcare anyway. And now they're offering medical assistance and dying. Not to mention they don't have access to the same treatments we do. These people are the epitome of spoiled rich kids. That is, they may not be rich, but they were born in the United States, and they don't realize how the rest of the world lives. One of my favorite Family Guy jokes. They were doing a Family Guy bit where it was 200 years ago, and Peter goes, "Oh, stubbed my toe. Guess I'll die." That's how it used to be. You'd get an infection, and then you'd go septic and die. You'd scrape your leg, and they'd be like, "Gotta cut your leg off." They didn't even realize they could have poured whiskey on your leg and just water, and then you probably would have been fine. Kind of crazy. So these people live in a golden castle of wealth, standing on the shoulders of giants, and then think she has a right that she says she wants people to die for not giving her more wealth. That is the danger of leftists. They are insane.
Yeah, it's completely insane. And you find that in a lot of the leftist ideology stuff, though. Like, they talk about the evils of capitalism as, like, the reason that there have been so many deaths, like, there have been deaths because there wasn't clean water, and there's been deaths by preventable disease, and deaths by starvation and stuff. And it's like, look, these deaths would happen in the absence of capitalism. The fact that we don't have vastly more deaths because of all of those things is because of capitalism. It is because of market.
You could argue that the capitalistic food and drug industry has capitalized on making people sick with toxic chemicals and then selling them a pharmaceutical to try and treat that and get into this cycle of illness and decline and then barely keep patient for life. You could argue that, but that's not capitalism that's doing it. That's the corrupted medical establishment that's taken advantage of capitalism.
And even still, like, that particular thing, again, I'm going to talk like a libertarian again, but like, we talk about how much sugar there is in food that you get and stuff. And that's because of corn subsidies. It's because the government pays farmers to produce corn, and with that corn they make high fructose corn syrup. That's why high fructose corn syrup is in everything. So and to your other point about the possibility that capitalism has caused people to not have food or whatever. The reason we have 7 billion people on Earth now, well, there's two, is because of oil and because of markets. If we didn't have oil to be able to properly transport, store in plastics, and move all these food products around the world, we wouldn't have this many people. And you wouldn't have this many people if it wasn't for the fact that we have capital markets that can exchange goods from country to country. So the idea that capitalism is a net negative, I think that's just completely ridiculous. There are definitely bad things about our system, but that doesn't mean that capitalism as a whole is a bad thing.
Corporatocracy.
She's basically saying that these healthcare CEOs are murdering every single person around the world.
Ridiculous.
Or not treating their treatable diseases.
Completely ridiculous. Just entirely ridiculous. The idea that people die, which it's awful for that people suffer and die, but like, that's part of the human condition. And that's another thing that the left constantly rails against. They don't rail against capitalism. They're actually railing against the human condition, and they blame capitalism.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.